Welcome back to this series of conversations at the Dark Reading News Desk at RSA. Terry Sweeney here with Dark Reading, and joining me now is Joe Partlow, CTO of ReliaQuest. Joe, thanks for joining us on News Desk today.
Well, thanks for having me, Terry.
Let's start with talking about just where customers are with their own thinking. What are some of the security challenges that you're hearing about that they're up against?
Yeah, I think a lot of customers you're still seeing challenges out there with the basics, right? Everybody's worried about phishing and ransomware and getting talent, training talent, keeping talent. So all those things are still there. I think at a higher level, some of the bigger things that people are struggling with are just getting visibility into their environment. Everybody's got more data, more devices, more environments that they have to get visibility into. So just making sure that you see all that, as well as one of the big asks that we get is how do we get more proactive? Traditionally security is very reactive. Something happens and we do something. Alert fires, we do something. So how do we get more proactive? Things like utilizing threat intelligence, doing threat hunting, things like that to try to get out in front of issues a little bit more.
So what does ReliaQuest bring to the table there?
Yeah, I think for ReliaQuest, we're definitely focused on the outcome. So the traditional outcome that you're going to see from most customers was, well, how do we reduce this risk? How do we make sure that we're enabling the business, that everything that we're doing as a business is done securely, and then we're not compromising any of our data or customer data. So ReliaQuest does that a couple different ways. One of the primary ways is through our gray matter platform, which is a cloud-based open XDR platform, and it's enables really customers to get that visibility into their environment, automate a lot of the actions or incident response pieces that they need to do. So making sure that all that as well, doing this as well as measuring that. Is this working? Is it not? Giving those reports to the board or their peers at the business. Just making sure that everything is working as intended.
Sure. So endpoint detection and response, EDR, and extended detection response, XDR, are obviously different functions. For viewers who may be coming to these terms or these acronyms for the first time, explain some of the differences. Yeah. Highlight, if you will, the distinctions between them.
Yeah, it's confusing because we love our acronyms, right, in this industry. So, I think XDR is really, extended detection response is kind of the next level of endpoint protection, where it's taking it to the next level. It's not just endpoint, it's all your other security devices. That could be network devices, that could be any other security controls that you have. But I think more importantly, wrapping extra capabilities around those. So the ability to automate actions, get more context, be proactive and do some of those threat hunting, rolling a lot of those capabilities in rather than just kind of detection from one technology. So it's every vendor I think defines it a little bit different, but those are kind of the core capabilities I think it needs to have.
All right. Shifting gears slightly, ReliaQuest has been in the headlines recently with a plan to acquire Digital Shadows. Tell us more about Digital Shadows and what they offer.
Yeah, so really excited about that opportunity. Digital Shadows is great and one of the leaders in the threat intelligence space. What they'll do is, from a value standpoint to the customer, they are allowing to get that visibility into any threat actors or malware, not only dark web, but any kind of social media accounts and things like that. Getting that visibility for a customer so that the customer can kind of react to that. And hey, is our data out there, or are these threats affecting our vertical or our business specifically? They have a very nice portal and suite and platform really to kind of do that.
What does the deal say about the importance or the profile of threat intelligence in the enterprise security mix?
Yeah, it's hugely important, and one of the key reasons why we're looking to do the deal. Every customer I think feels blindsided a little bit or doesn't have visibility in that area. So you have to. It's got a little bit of a bad rap in the past, right, of being too noisy or not specific enough. Where I really think that importance in Digital Shadows is able to do this. That importance of getting that value back to the business, making it focused, making it very targeted to, hey, what are my risks and what should I be watching for? So it's definitely important for us. It's a key piece of what we do with our gray matter platform. So it's going to be a great complement.
Sure. So companies who are in the acquisition business are fond of citing synergies, and it's a kind of a business cliche. But talk a bit, if you would, about what the combination of companies and their combined technologies will bring to the marketplace.
Yeah, super excited, like I said, to work with Digital Shadows. I think barring even any of the technology enhancements that we can have together, just the team has been great. We've worked with them for a while. From a customer, we were a customer for a while for that standpoint. Great culture. Team worked very well together. It was really kind of a good match from that standpoint, let alone the technology advances that we get. It's a core capability that we wanted to add and enhance in our gray matter platform. And at the same time, the data that we get from our incident response platform and any of the incidents that we work, feeding that back to the Digital Shadows engine so they can kind of see, well, what happens after an incident. And then using that intelligence in their engine. So it's definitely going to be kind of that bi-directional integration, and definitely looking forward to it.
Joe, great insights on EDR, XDR, and threat intelligence. Thanks for joining us today on the Dark Reading News Desk.
Thank you, Terry.
We've been talking with Joe Partlow, CTO of ReliaQuest. This has been Terry Sweeney for the Dark Reading News Desk. Thanks for joining us for this conversation today. We'll see you next time.